is 6 reasons plus 1 why the local church should tithe. 6 reasons why, plus 1, why the local church should tithe. And what is tithing or tithing? Or tithe or tithing? And how was it first introduced to the people of God? Well, according to Vine's complete expository dictionary of Old Testament and New Testament words, the Greek word for tithe is dekatos. It means a tenth. But if you go in the book of Young Analytical Concordance to the Bible, tithing in the Hebrew is maser, M-A-S-E-R. And it means to give, to have, to pay, to receive or take. So sometimes you'll hear people talking about pay your tithe. Well, if they're going by the Greek, then that would be an accurate word. Okay? I'm sorry, if you're going by the Hebrew, that'd be accurate. But if you're going by the Greek, Greek simply means a tenth. All right? And tithing was first introduced when Melchizedek, the king of Salem, the priest of the Most High, blessed a man called Abram. And then he blessed him for his victory over his enemies. And Abram was so moved that he gave a tithe of all the spoils that he'd taken. This was Abram's way of giving back to God through the spoils of his victory that came by the hands of God. Abram knew that he couldn't beat these people by himself. And so what he did, he recognized that God had blessed him. And when this man of God came and blessed him again by saying, "Bless you, Abram," then he understood that all his help came from God. And you can find that in the book of Genesis, the 14th chapter, 17th through 20th verse. And there were 6 reasons, plus 1, that I'd like to share why I believe that the local church should tithe, okay? If you look on the board, we got 6 reasons, plus 1, why the local church should tithe. And I'm going to sit down, go through this. And we just talked about what is tithe and how was it first introduced to God. And we just went through that part of it. The first thing, the first reason why I think that it's good for us to tithe is tithe gives honor or set value to God as God. When we tithe, we say, "God, you're God, and I value you, and I honor you." And if you look in Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, and the 9th verse, it says, "Honor the Lord from your wealth and from the first of all your produce." And so God is honored when we tithe. The second reason is tithing. It's a form of worship and reverence to God. When we give, we say, "God, I worship you and I honor you." I'm not giving because I'm mandated to give, but I want to honor God through my giving. And if you look at Matthew, the 2nd chapter, the 11th verse, it says, "When the wise men first saw Jesus, they did 2 things. They worshiped, and then they opened their bags and gave." They worshiped, and they opened their bags and gave. And Jesus was only a small child or an infant when this happened. The third reason is giving back to the one who first gave. Tithing helps to establish priorities. Tithing helps to establish priorities. And if you look at Matthew, the 6th chapter, the 24th verse, it says, "No man can serve 2 masters, for he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon." And when you see that word mammon, that means money. And so Jesus said that. This is the only place that Jesus equated anything else to God. And so he equated money to God. And he said it's a master that we can't serve. If you look at Matthew 6:33, it says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." So what it does is sets priorities. All right? The next one is tithing helps to produce a heart of faith. If you look in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 11th chapter, 1 through 4, it says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Now, casting your bread on the water, what that means is that by faith, you're doing something, you put it out there, but you know it's coming back. You don't know when, but you know it will. And so you're willing to cast it out there by faith and say, okay, God, I'm depending and trusting in you to get this back to me. All right? The next one is wise stewards give to God first. If you're a wise steward, and a steward is someone who understands they don't own nothing. They're just keeping it for the person that owns it. All right? They're keeping it for the person that owns it. And so a wise steward gives first. And if you look in the book of 1 Kings, the 17th chapter, the 8th through the 24th verse, you'll see a story in there about this widow. And her and her son was about to die. They was about to die. They were starving to death. The land was in a famine. There was a big drought in the land. It was about to die. And God sent his prophet to that woman. And she told the prophet, look, you know what? I don't have enough bread or meal or anything to give you something. She said, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook this bread. Me and my son are going to eat it, and then we're going to die. That's what's going to happen. And the prophet said, okay, great. You can cook the bread, and you give it to your son, but give it to me first. Just give me a piece first. And when she did that, through the whole famine, she never ran out of meal and she never ran out of oil. God kept supplying her needs. All right? And so wise stewards give to God first. We're almost finished. Tithing release others to give to you. When we tithe, we release other people to give to us. If you look in the book of Job, it says, when Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortune. In fact, the Lord gave him twice as much as before in Job 42:10. Well, what that means to us is this, that Job had lost everything. He lost his children, he had lost his cattle, he had lost everything. And his friends began to talk to him and talk about him and everything that he was going through. And so as Job listened to that, God began to speak to Job. And one of the things that God told Job, he said, pray for your friend. Pray for your friend. And he prayed for his friends. And as soon as he prayed for his friends, God released his friends to be able to give to him. And if you also look in Luke, the 6th chapter, the 38th verse, it says, give, and it shall be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, and shaken together, and running over shall men give unto your bosom. For the same measure that you meet, with it shall be measured to you. And so if you give a little, little comes back. If you give a lot comes back. All right? God has established that precedent and that priority for us. And this is the plus one. This is your bonus slide. Tithing helps to establish a precedence of importance. It says God, me, and everybody else. When we tithe and we look at it, precedence from that standpoint, is God first, 10%. Me, what? 10%. Everybody else, what? 80%. That's giving, saving, and obligation. So if you owe your debts, don't pay your debts out of all of your money. You pay your debts out of the 80% after you given to God his tithe, after you set aside for yourself. And then it also says this, in Proverbs the 13th chapter, the 22nd verse, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. By doing it this way, see, it's very difficult for us to give something if we have nothing to give. It's very difficult for us to leave something to our children and our children's children if we spend it all. And the way we get around that is by following this bonus principle. So I just want to thank y'all for your time, and hopefully this has been informative for you. Thank you very much.